back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and we got big news. Big news, everybody. I wake up this morning and I'm just doing my usual thing, checking the comments on my video that went live today. And, you know, I go on the Discord, talk to some of my patrons, and someone asks me in the, I got a little Ask Demo channel, and one of my patrons says, "Hey, Demo, we're going to get a video about Docside extortionists and Jeweled Lotus and Manac Crypt being banned." I'm like, or bannings or something. And I'm thinking, I think I've made my opinions fairly clear on, you know, I've talked about in the past, I don't think Docside should get banned. And no, as it turns out, it's not about banning those cards. It's about those cards were banned. That's right. Just like that. Bam, huge banned announcement. And again, I think I just talked about, this is so funny how things work out sometimes. I just made a video a couple months ago talking about, I don't think they're ever going to ban anything again. It has been years. I think Hull Breacher was the last card that got banned in Commander, I believe. And that was a really big deal. Before that, it was Golos, and that was a really big deal. I remember my channel, I had just started my channel. I was only doing it for a few months, you know, being a little conspiratorial. And I'll just say, this is live reaction here. I literally just had my patrons tell me about this 10 minutes ago on the Discord, and I'm like, guess I got to make a video about it. So this is my complete real live reaction to all of this. I'm going to read all the things they said and everything. I will just say this. We haven't had a banning like this. I don't know if we've ever had a banning like this in Commander. Not as long as I've been playing, for sure. And I've been playing since 2015. And I mean, maybe we've had 2 cards banned at once. I don't think as long as I've been playing, we've had 4 cards banned all at once like this. I will just say, being a little conspiratorial, for those who don't know, Sheldon Menery died a little while ago. And he is the sort of the godfather of Commander. I guess you could call it something like that. So, timing seems weird on this. I'll just say that, having all these cards banned all of a sudden, all at once. Let's check out what they said. So here it is, Commander ban and restricted announcement, September 20th, 2024. And by the way, I tried to go to the site. They have it here, mtgcommander.net, and the site won't load. I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark that the website crashed because they're getting so much traffic there right now because people are probably losing their minds over this. So we're on the Wizards website here, Magic the Gathering website, right? So as of today, as I'm recording this video, Docside Extortionist is banned, Jeweled Lotus is banned, Manac Crypt is banned, Nadu Winged Wisdom is banned. I pretty much correctly predicted that Nadu, I mean, I didn't think it would get banned. I mean, for crying out loud. Again, this is my thinking. I talk about this in all my banned videos. I've made so many different banned videos in different variations. Talked about all of these cards in those videos. Nadu Winged Wisdom is, I guess I could sit here and give my personal opinions on all this as I read what they say. Or maybe I could read what they say and then give my personal opinion after. I don't know. But how is Nadu? Is Nadu actually worse than whatever else is going on in CEDH? Because again, as I said, when Nadu first came out, I think I correctly predicted that this is going to be just a straight CEDH commander right out of the gate. And of course it was. And apparently it's so powerful. And I mean, again, if you're playing this in a casual game and everyone's complaining that it should be banned, okay, are you also playing Najeela and Urza and all these other commanders in a casual game? And we already have that issue. So for me, this is a CEDH only commander likely. People figured that out pretty quick, just like they figured out with Najeela pretty quick. This commander is insane and busted and shouldn't be played in casual games. Fine. Like I said, this format is self-regulating. I just made the video a couple months ago talking about how, and I believe I talked about Nadu in that video, and it'll be funny. I don't remember exactly what I said, but you can go watch it. I'll give you guys the link to go check out what I said about Nadu and how the format is self-regulating. It already is, where you separate the super competitive stuff from the casual stuff. There aren't actually 2 other formats. It's self-regulating, Rule 0 and all of that. And it's funny, I have another video coming up talking about this as well. So I knew that Nadu right away would just be, oh, this is a super powerful busted commander, which of course it is. You could tell just by first time you read it, you're like, what were they thinking with this? And again, way to go, Wizards of the Coast. You made a commander that was banned. First of all, it was banned almost instantly. So you printed this card for Modern, and I believe it was banned in Modern last month, right? Wasn't it? Pretty sure it was. So you made a card for Modern that immediately gets banned in Modern. Great design there, guys. And in fact, it's so insane that it even gets banned in Commander. That's saying a lot. Again, when you get cards banned out of Commander or Legacy or Vintage, it's like, wow, you guys, big mistake there, right? So, but I'm not going to harp on the whole Magic design thing. A lot of people have. I'm not gonna. I've already made my points about Magic design. Actually, I likely will have another video coming up talking about Magic design and trashing it. But anyway, Nadu getting banned is to me like the only explanation for me there is just like Flash getting banned, right? Flash got banned solely because it was too good, which I find pretty insane, too good in CEDH. The CEDH players want it banned. So the only reason for banning Nadu, in my opinion, is the CEDH players want it banned. Is that why it got banned? Right? Because we're already in the situation where if you have a commander that's super insanely powerful in a casual game, it gets regulated to CEDH, and the CEDH players play it. And that's it. So why didn't that happen here? Right? So if I'm not making my opinion clear here, I have no idea why this got banned. The only reason, again, is because just like with Flash, the CEDH players were complaining about how too good it is. I mean, is it that good? It's so good that it actually is too good for CEDH? Because again, if you're complaining about this in casual Commander, okay, but people already complain about Nigila and Urza, you know, whatever the CEDH type of stuff is. So we regulate it to that, right? Funny enough, this is the only one that I kind of get, because it's new. The rest of these, I mean, Manac Crypt's been around since forever. What was the first set it was printed? Obviously, it's been around since most Commander players were born. So banning it now is like, huh? And again, why I made the comment about Sheldon Menery, I'm like, what other reason could this all be happening right now? I don't know. That's the only thing I could come up with. Being a little conspiratorial, maybe he was the one holding back the floodgates, right? Of let's just start banning all these cards. So Manac Crypt, and I've talked about this in a bunch of videos. I will link the other video. I'll try to link the appropriate videos where I talk about banning cards, okay? Manac Crypt to me is worse. And again, maybe this is the CEDH community and maybe there's a bigger thing here. And I talk about this in another video. It's funny how I almost wish those videos would have came out first. We're moving so far into the competitive sphere, right? What's the word for it again? The Overton window is shifting, right? So that you had Commander being this super casual format, and we had the creation of CEDH. Again, I very much talk about this in that other video. And then it's slowly been shifting that way, shifting, right? So that it just in general is becoming, right? Things are becoming more efficient, power creep, all of that. So in general, the Commander format has been shifting towards the competitive sphere where Manac Crypt was, probably one of those cards that you only play it in a CEDH environment. And why would nobody wants to see that in a casual game? And I would argue that and I have made the argument many, many times that Sol Ring, which nobody's calling to get banned, is better in a casual Commander game than is a Manac Crypt. Manac Crypt costs one less. Big deal. Who cares? Sol Ring costs 1 mana and has 0 downside. I would rather have, and again, they're both tapping for the 2 colorless, so that part's the same. I would rather pay the 1 mana, right? It's a singular cost. The singular cost is on turn 1, I have to pay 1 mana. That's not a very high cost. The downside is nothing. There is 0 downside to a Sol Ring, not any. In fact, I could make the argument, and people will lose their minds on me, but I'll make the argument that I think it's the most powerful mana rock ever printed. That's right, I said it. Oh no, it costs 1 mana? It taps for 2 mana every single turn. It's mana positive already. It's already mana positive, right? Yes, Manac Crypt will allow you to do more stuff on turn 1, and that is it. The fact that Manac Crypt costs 0 mana only is an advantage on the first time you cast it, the turn 1. It doesn't cost mana, so on turn 1, I have 1 more mana than I would if I had cast a Sol Ring instead. That's the only advantage it has. So the only real place that has a big upside is in a CEDH environment where having that one extra mana can make all the difference in the world. In a casual game, it doesn't really. And in a casual game that's going to last 10 turns, taking 3 damage, I mean, again, let's just say it's 50-50, taking 15 damage, right? Because it's 5 turns times 3, that's a real big downside. Your Soul Ring is going to deal you 0 damage. I think a Soul Ring is better in a casual commander game than in as a Manac Crypt. So that means, again, just like Nadu, this must be the CEDH crowd complaining, right? Is it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know why. I know I've flogged this dead horse as much as I can on my channel so many times, but everybody knows that a Manac Crypt on turn 1 just makes you a target. So, you know, that's a huge downside. I don't know. Is 2 extra mana on turn 1 worth playing Archenemy for possibly the whole game? For me, it's not. Basically, everything I just said can be applied to Jeweled Lotus as well. I don't get it. I didn't love this card when it first came out. I complained about it. I'm so glad, and this is where we get into another argument. I'm so glad I didn't run out and buy this for my AO deck. This is a card that I actually put in my AO deck because, again, I'm not just going to throw Jeweled Lotus on all my decks. Why would I do that? I'm putting this in a deck where it actually fits, and my AO deck is a 0 mana artifact deck, and in fact, Manac Crypt probably could fit in there too, although, again, even if it was $1, I wouldn't put it in that deck because it's going to sit there hitting me for damage all the time. No thanks. I don't need mana that badly. There's lots of other options like Soul Ring that don't deal me damage. Jeweled Lotus is definitely, because it very much fits in the eggs type of strategy, that is my AO deck. So it's actually a perfect fit there. And of course, it gets my commander out faster, which I want because I want it to be dying, so that I can get more stuff and I recycle and second sunrise, all that, right? The eggs strategy. That's what I'm doing there. It's actually a perfect fit there. And I'm so glad I didn't run out and buy it for that deck. If I had sprung for this card and spent all that money, whatever this is worth now, $100, $200, I don't know what it's worth, man, would I be pissed. And I would imagine there's a lot of people that are super pissed about this. A lot of people out there that ran out and bought a Manac Crypt or a Jeweled Lotus and are super pissed now. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. That sucks. I'm so glad I didn't run out and buy this. Docside Extortionist. I have a Docside Extortionist, but again, I took it out. So I'm way ahead of the curve on this one, right? I had this in my, originally it was my Gerard deck. It was an artifact sacrifice theme, and also, I mean, my Gerard deck was a artifact creature ETB sacrifice theme. So of course, when I saw Docside Extortionist, I'm like, that's a great ETB. And funny enough, this card wasn't that expensive when it first came out. People, again, believe it or not, people, I can't believe this card's getting banned. It's kind of funny. Go watch people's reactions to Docside Extortionist. If you can find, I didn't have a channel then, but if you can find some of those older Commander channels when Docside Extortionist came out, go watch their reaction. They're not losing their minds over it. I doubt it. They're probably just saying, hey, this is a pretty good card. That's probably their reaction, right? When I first put this in my Gerard deck, I was like, hey, that'll be a good fit. It's got a great ETB. That's why I put it in there, right? And it eventually became my Lulu deck, which, guess what? That's more of a treasure theme, so it fit even better in my Lulu deck. And I took it out, and I took it out for the exact same reason. I talk about this in my Stealing the Win video. I talked about it with the cards that I cut super fast video, where I talk about how the last card I talk about there was Last March of the Ents, which I cut from my Shanna deck because it's like, yeah, this card's just winning me the game. That is what happened with Docside Extortionist the last time I played it. The last time I ever played this card, I will probably never, well, now I definitely will never play it again. It's banned. So I had this in my Lulu deck. I got it out, created like 18 treasures, which is good. I mean, it is mana. I'll just say you can do that with like a Mana Geyser or something too, right? And so you can go off on a turn. The problem there is it's actually a treasure theme. So I have a Magda in play. I can do a lot of other things with the treasure. It's not just that I'm creating mana. I can do other things with it, right? And maybe that is why they finally decided to pull the trigger. Again, this came out in C18. These cards are all old, except for Nadu. These cards are old. Now they're banning it. And again, maybe it is getting to the point where, okay, well, there's so much treasure support. Docside Extortionist was just a mana accelerator. That's all it was. That's all people used it for a long time. But because they just keep on and keep on and keep on with these treasure payoffs and artifacts entering and leaving the battlefield and, Mirkwood bats and all this, it's just making this card worse. By the way, I'll just say, all you guys playing Jeweled Lotus and Manac Crypt, you're also making Docside Extortionist worse. I find the most ironic thing, this card actually makes me laugh. And I talk about it I made a video a long time ago, a couple years ago, talking about how, no, I wouldn't ban Docside Extortionist. No. It used to be you just would create an infinite amount of mana with it by bouncing it back to hand. And, okay, I get it. But there's lots of combos out there that create infinite mana in the Commander format, right? It's gotten worse now because now you can just win the game with it. You don't even have to use the mana. You're just creating treasures and I win. But what I've always said about this card is it is entirely reliant on your opponent, guys. And that's kind of the funny part about it. Oh, that card's insane. Maybe that card's insane because you're playing a first turn Manac Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Soul Ring, and you have a bunch of artifacts in play so that when your opponent casts Docside Extortionist, it creates a lot of treasures. That's kind of the ironic thing about Docside Extortionist. I've held Docside Extortionist in my hand plenty of times and just been like, there's like 2 mana rocks in play. I'm not going to waste it. And it just sits there and it sits there and it sits there. And again, is this the CEDH community? It's almost like all of these cards got banned because of CEDH. Again, your Jeweled Lotus is, I cheat my 8 mana commander into play a few turns earlier. So who cares? Like the worst case scenario for this, for me, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this gets a Perforos into play turn 1. That's brutal, right? That is I would say that's a casual play. I would say Perforos barely is a casual commander. It's certainly not a fun one to play against. It does really, the games end quickly when someone has a Perforos deck. Because again, even if you're not, like I say all the time, your win con is my win con, right? So if you got a Perforos deck and Buddy's got a Edgar Markov deck, you're actually helping him win because he can kill everyone else faster, right? That was the worst scenario I came up with is, okay, yeah, someone can turn 1, get their Perforos in play and just start going off turn 2, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But still, every time, I've only seen this used a couple times in casual commander games, which is funny because it's been around for 4 years now. And it's like, pretty much every time I see it, it's like, okay, I just get my 6 or 7 mana commander out a few turns earlier, which a Dark Ritual or a lot of things can be used for, right? I've never seen it get abused. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to, which is I just get my commander out a little faster. That's it. And a lot of the times, a couple of times my patrons have actually used it. I get my commander out turn 1 or 2, and then someone just paths it. And then I just spent the $200 on a card for getting my commander. Again, you just make yourself a target. So upside, downside sort of thing, right? Anyway, so if it's not clear on my opinion on this, I don't think any of this should have got banned. My only explanation, because again, all these cards have been around forever. I know there's people that don't like them. So you also don't like Stasis. You also don't like Winter Orb. EDH Rec just did their salt scores again. And it's funny, actually, let's go check that out real quick because it's funny. And look at that. They have it updated already. My patrons just pointed this out the other day as well. And I was going to talk about it possibly in a video. Nadu was number 3. Wow. Right behind Stasis and Winter Orb. So again, oh, I hate that card. Okay. Where's Docside Extortionist? There it is. They already updated it. Wow. Okay. So Docside Extortionist is there. Guess what? Rhystic Study has the same exact salt score as Docside Extortionist. Guess we should ban that, right? We would have to ban all these cards. One Ring. Everyone hates that card. When's that getting banned? I'm guessing it's going to be soon. Ban Turgid, ban all these cards. Again, as I've always said, why is Armageddon not banned? If we're banning cards because people don't like them, why aren't we banning Armageddon? Why aren't we banning all these cards, right? So again, that's not a good reason. Banning cards because I really hate that card is not a good reason. Banning card because it makes this is the one I hear all the time, banning a card because it makes a commander game unfun. Stasis, does that make a commander game unfun? Winter Orb, Armageddon, Static Orb, Apocalypse, any of these cards make a commander game unfun? Of course they all do. So why are they not all banned? Again, no consistency. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's check out their explanation here, okay? The philosophy of Commander prioritizes creativity, and one of the ways we have historically reflected that in the rules and ban list is to encourage a slower pace of game than traditional formats. Well, that would explain why Stasis and Winter Orb are banned. They like stacks pieces, all right? Drag out the game, sure. I don't have a problem with that either, by the way. This gives decks time and space to develop and do different things. I don't disagree. We have a goal to make it easier for players to enjoy slower and more social games. Okay, I agree with all that. But again, this is why we have CDH, right? For all the guys that don't want that. That's what you guys want, and that's what I want. Thumbs up to that. I agree. But there's a whole bunch of other people that want to Thassa's Oracle and win on turn 3. So those guys can go play CEDH. Again, all this is solved by separating those formats. Just saying, I've been saying that since forever. So again, if that's your goal, then there should be probably a whole lot of other cards that are banned. Thassa's Oracle being the best example. Thassa's Oracle or Demonic Consultation or both. Both of those cards should be banned because those cards end games, as CEDH has proved, those cards end games faster than anything else in the format. So why aren't you banning, like, again, if this is your prioritization, why aren't you banning those cards? I don't know. Don't get it. Commander has always had the potential for someone to get out a fast start and be the first arch villain in the game. Yep. That's hugely part of the strategy. But that advantage has been balanced by having multiple players gunning for them once. Agree. This is exactly what I just said. In the past few years, notably since Strixhaven School of Mages. Interesting. Just made a video about Strixhaven, which is funny. Great commander set. Maybe that's why they're mentioning it. We have seen a pattern of stronger mid-game cards that allow the player who skips past the early game to snowball their advantage straight through to the win. Okay. Manac Crypt is part of that. I don't know. Or Jeweled Lotus? Those are early game cards. Occasional games like that are fine, but it shouldn't be common. I mean, that the only card they banned that applies to that, I think, is Docside. And we're taking steps to bring that frequency down a bit by banning 3 of the most explosive plays in the format. Okay, so Manac Crypt coming down for no mana on turn 1 is quite possible to have the Okay, great. They just said here, what did they just say? Commander has always had the potential for someone to get out a fast start and be the arch villain in game, but that advantage has been balanced by. So here you're saying it's okay to have an explosive start because you become the arch enemy, and that balances things out. And I completely agree. Here you're going completely against that argument by saying coming down for no mana on turn 1 is quite possible to have. Doesn't seem like proper English. Explosive start of Manac Crypt into Signet or Talisman land another Signet, leaving that player untapping 5 mana on turn 2. Yeah, it's possible if you have a god hand. And again, any opening god hand in Commanders, again, that's what I always hear about when I talk about banning cards, and people are like, oh, well, if this happens and if this, and Magic Christmas Land, okay, that the Magic Christmas Land thing is always a possibility. Turn 1, I Dark Ritual, entomb whatever nasty creature I want into my graveyard and then reanimate it. That's a turn 1 play in Commander. None of those cards, nothing there is banned. That's a fantastic first turn play. That's a really good start. Is that not a really good start? Should we ban all those cards? So again, they talk about how the mid-game stuff, but then they start talking about, oh, well, we're banning Manac Crypt because of the early game stuff. Okay, so ban Mana Vault, ban Grim Monolith, ban all fast mana you would have to ban, right? There's zero consistency here. Again, all they're doing here is just talking about why Manac Crypt is good on turn 1. Wow, like we didn't know that already. Going over 12 turns, the accumulated threat of damage from Manac Crypt. And by the way, coming down on turn 1, let's replace this with Soul Ring, which of course they will never ban. Soul Ring into Signet. Yeah, Soul Ring into Signet is a play that I heard, or Talisman is a play that we've all seen, right? So if I turn 1 land Soul Ring into an Arcane Signet, and then, I could use that Arcane Signet to cast the Mana Vault too, and then untap on my turn, and I've got playing a land, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana on turn 2 without using a Manac Crypt. So you guys have not stopped anything from happening here by banning Manac Crypt, just saying. All right, Jeweled Lotus, another card that gives you 5 mana on turn 2. Jeweled Lotus does it even without even needing a good hand, correct, but you can only use it for your commander. It's very limited, in my opinion. It's sort of like LED, right? Lion's Eye Diamond. It is Lion's Eye. In fact, you could easily make the argument that Lion's Eye Diamond is better. You have to discard your hand, but of course, most decks that are using that don't care about that. You can use the mana for anything. Jeweled Lotus, you can only use the mana for your commander. Commanders can pack a significant punch nowadays, often drawing cards to make up for the one-shot mana. Defensive abilities such as Ward can't be interacted with early in the game. Okay, so this is Jeweled Lotus. I get my Voja out 2 turns faster and start going town, right? So essentially what they're doing here, and again, the coast is at fault here. Why are they banning it now and they didn't ban it before, in the last 4 years or whatever? Because now the commanders are really powerful. That's the argument they're making. Korvold existed back then, right? Niv Mizzet existed back then. Getting a Niv Mizzet Perun that draws you a card every single time someone casts an instant or sorcery, getting that guy out on turn 2 or 3? Why are we talking like there was never powerful commanders before? I would argue that the most powerful commanders were and let's go look. Again, I'm backing this up with evidence. Hey, look at all these commanders that were not printed in the last couple of years. In fact, none of them. Hey, look at Krenko, way back from getting a Krenko out on turn 1. Back when Jeweled Lotus first came out, that wasn't a good play. Come on, guys. Almost all of these commanders have been around in the format since forever. So now you're doing it because, they're printing powerful. I would argue that back in like 2018, 2019, that's the argument I make for when they were really pouring it on every commander. And again, if you look at Throne of Eldraine is a perfect example with Kenrith and Alila, and where are they? They've fallen off quite a bit, but still, they used to be Korvold, of course. Yeah, is that a powerful commander? Is that a commander that you probably don't want out on turn 2 or 3? Of course, it's insane. How about Muldrotha? As people correctly pointed out when Jeweled Lotus first came out, I believe I even talked about it in one of my very first videos was talking about Commander Legends. Yeah, Muldrotha you can get out 3 turns earlier and then play your Jeweled Lotus from your graveyard with it. Pretty good there. This stuff has already existed in the format for years and years and years. So pretending that it's a thing now and it wasn't before, it's a little disingenuous. Anyway, Docside Extortionist is the interesting one here that I'm curious about. Docside isn't normally quite as explosive in the early game, of course, because it relies entirely on what your opponents have as the other 2 cards, but it can still go mana positive on turn 2. Okay, it can, yeah. And start generating substantial treasures after that. Well, no, not unless you have, again, this is a combo situation. As soon as Docside Extortionist comes down, right? I mean, let's talk about Eternal Witness. 99% of the Eternal Witnesses I've ever seen played in a commander game are only used once. They come down, they get a card out of your graveyard, and that's it. It's a one-time use. Almost all ETB creatures are like that unless you're playing a blinking deck. Docside Extortionist, same thing. Like, why are they saying it can start generating substantial treasures after that? Yeah, if you have some combo assembled, or if that's what your deck is built around, most cases Docside Extortionist is a one-time use, at least what I've seen, in casual games, of course. Shied away from, is that how you spell shied? Shied away from acting in the past because the card has scaled well with the power level of the table. Again, you're sort of contradicting yourself there a little by talking about how cards are getting more powerful. So cards, we got all this power creep. The power creep has made Docside Extortionist less good because there's more powerful cards. But now we're going to ban it after it's been in the format for 6 years? Okay, well, whatever. It's a frequent contributor to more egregious snowballing starts. You just literally, these guys really contradict themselves a lot. You just said it's not good in the start, and I would agree that it's not. It doesn't usually get played early in a game. It usually gets played on like turn 5 or 6 when it actually creates a bunch of treasures. So a little bit of contradiction there. We should also talk about the elephant in the room. We're not banning Sol Ring. Hey, they talk about it and have no desire to. Why? Because it is now a commander staple and they can't. They've put themselves in a box. They should have done it 10 years ago. Yes, based on the criteria we've talked about here, it would be banned. Yep, as I already pointed out, Sol Ring is iconic card of the format. That's why, because it's iconic. Yeah, you could very easily argue that Docside and Manac Crypt are also iconic. And it's sufficiently tied to the identity of the format, and it defies the laws of physics in a way that no other card does. Banning, okay, whatever. Banning Sol Ring would be fundamentally changing the entire identity of the format. I completely disagree. I have Sol Ring in 0 decks. I took it out voluntarily. It's been about 2 years since I had a Sol Ring in one of my decks. You don't miss it. I'll tell you right now, nobody would, if they banned Sol Ring right now, nobody would miss it. The only difference, and the same with Manac Crypt and all these, the only difference is you paid $200 for your Manac Crypt and now you can't use it. You paid $200 for your Jeweled Lotus and now you can't use it. You paid $90 or whatever for your Docside Extortionist and now you're not allowed to use it. Sol Ring you paid $1 for, or you just cracked it open at a pre-con. So I have like 12 Sol Rings sitting in my box right now that I don't touch. So what? Who cares, right? Definitely the people getting upset about that, I 100% agree. We aren't trying to eliminate all explosive starts. It happens every once in a while and it's exciting. Okay, sure. And a lot of people play the format for that reason, right? And removing the other 3 cards geometrically reduces the number of hands capable of substantial above curve mana generation in the first few turns. I would say it accomplished absolutely nothing. Banning Manac Crypt and Jeweled Lotus have accomplished nothing. There's still plenty of mana positive rocks in the format. Maybe not quite as good, but again, you still have Sol Ring, Grim Monolith, Mana Vault, Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, all that. Just go watch the CEDH games. Now that all those cards are banned, let's see if CEDH players have explosive starts. I'm betting they still do. There's another ban here, and it's explosive, but in a different way. Given that Nadu Winged Wisdom has been ejected from multiple formats at this point, we're just following along with the crowd, apparently. It's no surprise that we took a close look at it for Commander. Okay, sometimes hugely problematic cards in other formats, Oko, Companions, are fine for Commander, but our observations of Nadu suggest its inherent play pattern is going to cause problems. Wow, this is like a preemptive banning? Nobody was even complaining about it. They're just banning it because they think it might eventually become a problem. Don't know if I love that. Part of the problem is the way in which Nadu wins, where it takes a really long time to do non-determinate. Man, these guys, like infinite turns is a thing in Commander. Lots of decks do it. Lots of decks take infinite turns. Again, that's why ban Panoptic Mirror, because you can take infinite turns with it. Oh, you mean like you can with a lot of... Lots of ways to do that. And people even do that in their casual decks. So, man, even my AO deck, I'll throw that out there again. My AO deck, I actually feel bad. Again, it's an eggs deck. And by the way, for those who don't know, that's why Second Sunrise is banned in Modern, because of eggs decks. Because you would sit there doing stuff over and over and over again on your turn. And I do that in my AO deck, my very casual AO deck. I take some pretty long turns. And I'm like, okay, I'll try to speed this up. I could take longer turns if I wanted to, because it kind of feels bad after a while. That's already a thing. That's already very much a thing in Commander, and it's, I would say, impossible to avoid. You just have to be courteous. That's really, again, that it just goes into the format. You just have to be courteous if you're in a casual game to try not to take up too much time, right? I have people, myself and my patrons all the time are like apologizing when they take really long turns. Sorry about that, guys. These aren't dedicated combo lines. You have to build a deck around. Dropping Nadu into a normal Simic shell still runs the risk of grinding the game down to a... No, it doesn't. If I swap Nadu out for my Tishana, I have a one Simic deck, my Tishana deck. If I swap Nadu out, it would do literal nothing. It wouldn't. My deck doesn't do that, so that comment is silly. Do I have... I guess I have a couple blinking spells. So there you go. There would be maybe 3 or 4 cards in the deck that would interact with... Okay, so it would do a little bit, but it wouldn't do much. I certainly wouldn't be taking huge turns. And by the way, is Orvar not doing this? Wasn't everyone complaining about Orvar doing a very similar thing? So, again, no consistency. It interacts badly with cards that are staples of casual play, most notably Lightning Greaves. Yeah, okay. I don't disagree with that. So let's relegate it to CEDH and just leave it at that. Again, are the CEDH players complaining about it? If they weren't, then definitely shouldn't be banned. Meaning that decks it gets thrown into without abuse intent can still create a situation where the player is monopolizing all... Okay, but there is... I don't know how many, maybe someone can tell me, a dozen commanders that go infinite with one card in the format. And most of them aren't just, I win the game. A lot of them are infinite mana, where now I have the infinite mana on my turn, that I can sit there doing a whole bunch of stuff. I have a patron with a deck that does the Sensei's Divining Top. I flip it off the top and then cast it for free because you can cast stuff from the top. How many decks do that? How many decks can cast from the top of the library? And I just sit there going through my entire deck till I get what I want and take really long turns. It's already a thing in Commander. I will admit it's not super fun for the guys sitting around, but that's an unavoidable situation, I'll just say. And this explanation for Nadu is really disappointing. It almost seems like they only banned it because it just got banned in other formats and they're just getting ahead of the curve. Don't know if I love that. All right, there is my opinions on all of it. As you can probably tell, I don't think any of those cards should have got banned. I'm not, again, I have playing zero of those cards. This is not a personal thing. I'm trying to be objective. I think there's zero consistency here. I don't love their explanations. I feel badly. I have the patron of mine that was complaining on the Discord. I feel badly. He went out and bought Jeweled Lotus for his deck and now he can't play it. That sucks. Right? Rule 0 always. If you guys want to play banned cards in your play group, go nuts. You guys, as long as everyone agrees, it's a democracy, right? Do whatever you want. If you have a play group and you're okay with people continuing to play Docside extortionists, go ahead. I think I'm okay with it. I will say I follow the ban rules list typically. So, yeah, I mean, almost entirely, I think. But, for me, I don't think any of these cards should have got banned. I don't think it changes anything. As I've said about the ban list more times than I can count, it feels incredibly arbitrary. The things people say to me about, oh, it's to make the game funner or it's so the games don't slow down. And then you look at Stasis and Winter Orb and all these cards. And then people will say, oh, well, we don't play those cards, so it doesn't need to get banned. Okay, so then why wouldn't you do the same for those why wouldn't you do with Manac Crypt? Right? The same applies there. Why aren't you applying the same rules to all these cards? It's all the same. It's all the same to me. Unban it all as far as I'm concerned. There's like a handful of cards, like maybe 5 or 6 cards that absolutely need to be banned in Commander. And the rest is just we self-regulate. We self-regulate to keep the format casual. That's my opinion. You guys let me know what yours is in the comments below. That's it for today, and thanks for tuning in.